What's going on, guys? Aero here, and welcome back to another video. Now, in today's video, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet has been out for a while, and if there's one thing that we know, is that GameFreak loves to put little Easter eggs and hidden details and secrets inside of their Pokemon games. So I've spent a while kind of just looking through all the hidden details and trying to find as much as I could about kind of cool little things that you might have missed while you were playing through the games, and I'm going to be showing you all of them inside of this video. Now, real quick before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that I am having a special giveaway for the holidays as a thank you for all the support that you guys have given me throughout this year. So I'm going to be giving away a digital download code for any Nintendo Switch game, and all you got to do to enter is click the link below in the description or the pinned comment, and you can enter to win any Nintendo Switch game that you want, whether it's a game that came out this year, an old one that's already been out for a while, or even an upcoming game like Tears of the Kingdom, in which I'll just give you a pre-order code when it's available. The giveaway is open worldwide and it does end at the end of the month, so definitely click the link below and enter for a chance to win. Now, the first one is right inside of your house. If you go into the living room and take a look at the top shelf, you can find a substitute doll, and we don't know exactly what Pokemon it could be, but your mom does have a Scovet as a pet, so maybe it knows the move Substitute. Gimmighoul is a brand new Gen 9 Pokemon, and a pretty cool detail about it is if we take a look at the antennas on the top of its head, they're actually very reminiscent of the dowsing machine or the item finder, which was a key item that you could get in previous Pokemon games, and this was an item that allowed you to be able to find hidden items that you couldn't normally see while you were adventuring through the world. And I find that pretty cool because Gimmighoul is of course a hidden Pokemon that you're going to be looking for all around the Paldea region, and it's a Pokemon that you're not easily going to be able to see. Now, Scarlet and Violet are special because there's two different professors depending on which game that you have, but what's really cool about these professors is that they're both actually canon to each game, where in Pokemon Scarlet, for example, if you manage to find Professor Sada's notebook, she actually mentions about how he managed to get away, obviously referring to Professor Turo, and then in Pokemon Violet, Professor Turo's notebook mentions how she got away, referring to Professor Sada. A really cute detail that's pretty easy to miss is that inside of the lab, you can actually see pictures of baby Arven and even his Pokemon Maschiff before it evolved into Mabosstiff, so it really shows you that Professor Sada and Professor Turo did really care about Arven, despite what Arven really thought inside of the game. In Pokemon Platinum, Wooper's Pokedex entry states, when walking on land, it covers its body with a poisonous film that keeps its skin from dehydrating. So obviously it does that whenever it's walking on the land, covers itself with poison, and then it goes back into the water. But what would happen if a Wooper covered itself in poison and then just stayed on land forever? It seems like that could actually be what turns into Paldean Wooper, as it's a poison and ground type. There's a store inside of these games called Baggins, which sells you different backpacks, but it could be referring to the character known as Baggin inside of Pokemon Legends Arceus, who was the character that expanded your inventory space. Inside of the Academy, you can find a book that talks about imagined Pokemon, and I think it's different depending on which version of the game that you have. So in Pokemon Scarlet, I think it's like a Suicune, and then in Pokemon Violet, it's a Virizion. It seems like that this is most likely going to be hinting at DLC, but that I'm probably going to have an entire video talking about what I think they're going to do for the DLC and how it's going to go, so you can just look forward to that video in the future. Now, it's pretty easy to see that the themes for these games are past and future, but that even goes into the names of the professors, as Professor Sada is actually based around the word for past in Spanish known as pasada, and Professor Turo is based around the word for future, which is futuro. And kind of similar to that, your history teacher Ryford talks about how it would be so cool if you actually had like a time machine to be able to go to the past or the future, kind of foreshadowing the end of the game because she doesn't know that a time machine does in fact exist inside of Area Zero. Speaking of Ryford, she's actually covered with so many little Pokemon references on her outfit. She has a Marshadow hair clip, an Articuno necklace, and a Lunala belt buckle, which is really cool. Inside of the library in the Academy, you can find a history book that talks about the Galar region, and it mentions how they basically kind of destroyed the structure that uncovered these statues of Zacian and Zamazenta, basically implying that the events of Paldea in Gen 9 take place after Pokemon Sword and Shield, as that event that happens where you uncovered the statues actually happens with Bede inside of Pokemon Sword and Shield, and a lot of people even think that this book that you're reading inside of the library could in fact be a book written by Sonia, as she does mention, I think in Pokemon Sword and Shield, that she is writing a book about Galar's history. Now, inside of history class, if you pay attention to the board behind the teacher, you can actually see a picture of Professor Laventon, as well as the old school Hisui style Pokeballs that were inside of Pokemon Legends Arceus, so a very cool little reference to that game. Now, after beating Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you get a very cute picture at the end after the credits, and you can actually see this picture inside of your room after you boot up the game again, which I found pretty cool. There's some pretty interesting artwork inside of Nemona's house, but you can actually find this one abstract piece of the Pokemon Greninja. And if you take a look really carefully, you can kind of notice some of the parts of Greninja on it. You can find like its tongue and other parts, and I don't know, I mean, I find this pretty interesting because Spain was actually known for a lot of cool abstract artists, and there was an artist like this who was named Juan Miro, and he was somebody who made a lot of these abstract pieces and was from Barcelona in Spain, and obviously with Generation 9 being inspired by this region, maybe that's why we do see some of these types of paintings. Inside the town with the ghost type gym leader Rhyme, we can actually find these lampent lights which are kind of used to light up the town, which is a little bit cool because lampent isn't actually inside of the Pokedex for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, so maybe it's going to be appearing in the DLC or something, but it is kind of cool to see a reference to a Pokemon that the region doesn't even have. Now, every pavilion inside of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet looks like this, but if you played Pokemon X and Y where this Pokemon originated from, you might remember that there was a bunch of different designs for pavilion, but this one in particular was one that you actually couldn't find in the game. This was one that was actually handed out by the GTS as like a special event that happened, I think, when the GTS had like 100 million trades that happened or something along those lines. So because of that, a lot of people from Pokemon X and Y who played those games might have never even gotten this pavilion or seen it, so maybe you even thought while playing this game that this was a brand new design. Now, in one of the classrooms, if we take a look at the board behind the teacher, we can see a picture of the Altar of the Sun, which is of course a location from the Alola region in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and this was the location that you and Lily went to in order to encounter the legendary Pokemon, so it is cool to see a picture of that inside of the game. Now, when Pokemon become a flying type from terastallizing, they get balloons, which actually could be a reference to the flying Pikachu from Pokemon Yellow, which had balloons on top of it as well, and even the event that was given out for this Pikachu was a Pikachu with balloons that was a flying type, so it definitely seems like it was intentional. The Pokedex entry for Ampharos inside of these games mentions how it's used as a beacon of light, which is basically referring to Pokemon Gold and Silver, where Amphi was basically like this Pokemon that was in charge of the lighthouse and would light it up to help sailors inside of the ocean. In Pokemon Shield, Regidrago's Dex entry says, its body is composed of crystallized dragon energy. Regidrago is said to have the powers of every dragon Pokemon. Crystallized dragon energy is a very interesting choice of words because it could be referring to terastallizing, which is inside of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and terastallizing and becoming like this crystal dragon type actually gives you this really interesting kind of dragon head, which becomes like the terastallized crown that you get for any Pokemon that becomes a dragon type, but this crown that you get of this dragon head is very similar to what's on either side of the Pokemon Regidrago, where if you take that dragon head and combine it together, it basically becomes what it looks like when it terastallizes. Now, inside your room in the game, you have a Nintendo Switch, but what's really cool about this Switch is that the colors of the Joy-Cons are actually going to be the same as the colors of your Nintendo Switch's Joy-Cons in real life. So for example, my Nintendo Switch has white Joy-Cons, so they're white inside of the game, but if you had like black ones or green ones or blue ones, they would all change depending on which ones you have. Now, this was mentioned for just a split second in one of the lines, but they talk about how Penny is actually a transfer student from the Galar region, so it is pretty cool to know where she comes from. Now, in Artisan, you can find these abstract sculpture-looking things, but what's really cool about them is that they're actually a reference to a special item that you could get inside of Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire inside of your secret base. The Dex entry for Paradox Salamence mentions how it looks very similar to another phenomenon, which is basically referring to Mega Salamence, as we can take a look at the shape of its wing and see how that crescent shape is just like the same inside of its Mega. A lot of people think that the homeroom teacher that you have in the game, Jock, and also the person who is responsible for making the Pokedex, could be a descendant of Adaman, who was inside of Pokemon Legends Arceus. They do kind of have a similar hairstyle, so maybe it could be possible. The way that you fast travel inside of Generation 9 is using Squawk ability, which basically carries you in a flying taxi to where you need to go, but the reason why you can't have Corviknight, which was the flying taxi service from Pokemon Sword and Shield, is because Corviknight actually has a predator inside of the Paldea region known as Tinkaton, which basically uses hammers and then uses like little rocks that it whacks with its hammers into the sky to try to knock down Corviknights, and then takes all of the metal from Corviknight to craft even bigger hammers. It's kind of crazy how this Pokemon is just out there to be a hater and hate this Pokemon, but it's out here hunting for these Corviknights, so because of that, it would endanger somebody if they were actually traveling with Corviknight, so that's why it can't be a flying taxi. One of the easiest to find Easter eggs is if you go into the town with the Psychic Gym Leader and walk along the path, you're actually going to see sprites of the original Gen 1 Pokemon designs for how they appeared inside of the menus and the overworld, which is a really cool reference. And finally, the last Easter egg that I could find is if you terrestrialize your Pokemon into a ghost type, the ghost type crown that appears on top of your Pokemon is actually the exact same design as the original Gen 1 ghost that appeared in Lavender Town in Pokemon Red and Blue, which is just really cool to see. But yeah, there you go guys, that is pretty much every single secret or Easter egg that Game Freak hid inside of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that I could find. If you guys enjoyed this video, then definitely be sure to click that like button and also comment down below and let me know what you guys think about this. Which one of these did you find the most interesting? Are there any things that you found that I missed inside of this video? Definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know. If you're new to this channel, then please be sure to subscribe. I'm definitely going to have some more Pokemon content in the future, so definitely be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Click on that bell to become a part of the notification squad. Go follow me on Twitter at Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. And remember to enter my giveaway as well. I am giving away one Nintendo Switch game for the holidays, so definitely be sure to click the link below in the description or the pinned comment if you want to have a chance to win. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.